Back to Facebook.
Damn it, Kuroh. You're at it again.
He has an addiction.
He is addicted to Bond villainy.
We need to get him a cat to pet. That'll fix it.
We got enough money, so we'll upgrade the Stone Render to level 3. Hey, we got some more moves here.
Oh, excellent.
And now I will show you my moves. Quite literally. So here's some of the new stuff that we've unlocked. The launch moves don't really work that well because actually getting into the air for a juggle is kind of difficult. I mostly prefer the charge attacks that you get later, as well as Free Fall Barrage, which is a really useful move that we'll get later. Pile Driver is also great. It's one of the few like power moves that the Oni Slayer Blade has. Mad Dance is kind of iffy just because it has lengthy animations and there's a long time in between attacks, but it's cool to use. Gale Barrage is useless, but fun to pull off when you can. It's really cool, but its charge attacks are not great, at least with the Oni Slayer Blade.
It's looking a little Devil May Cry in that moves list.
I think it works more like God of War because there's combinations where you hold the block and run buttons. You hold buttons in order to get combo animations, so I think it works a little more like the classic God of War games in that regard. Whereas Devil May Cry was more about timing button presses.
He literally does a headstand off of that sword. I love it.
Yep. Also, we can surf. The Snow Slide Crush is also useless, but it is so fun to use that I use it all the time anyway. And unfortunately, your slide stops as soon as you hit an enemy, but it's just way too much fun. Tornado Rampage is also not that great, but it's okay. Ground Runner is equivalent of like Heavy Barrage for the Stone Render Sword. Twin Falcon Knives are all about rapid fire attacks as usual, so you have your spin attacks, horizontal and vertical. Rising Barrage is in theory a decent way to get juggling enemies, but really that's more about oh, you also got this. This is Flying Bird Spin Kick. Which is also a lot of fun to use. Opening Gate, which I used on the Blastmite in the previous episode. That's really fun to use. Excuse me. I'm gonna cut that out. Windmill, which has one particularly awesome use, which we'll see in one of the last episodes. I think I was gonna put that here instead, which is why I left it for so long.
Little rave action there.
And New Moon Barrage, which is just a basic juggle move. And the juggle moves I find are more useful when you're low to the ground and you can sort of stun enemies to cancel them. Anyway, we like the hearts, but it's a new episode, so we gotta get a new costume. We got the cloud outfit. So we're gonna dress up as a clown. Maybe that'll help.
Because, I mean, why not? I mean, we could blend in with a bunch of clowns. It's perfect.
I mean, that's how everyone acts in this game anyway. And of course, clowns are deadly, so we're gonna have a skull. This is the Shuriken skull. Everyone knows clowns are death, so why not just go with it?
We apologize in advance if you're afraid of clowns.
Yeah, this is not a Kuroh friendly episode. Oh look, actual people.
We're not supposed to be over there. you thinking? Let go of me! Get back here! It's dangerous!
So there are about 20, 30 people left in Japan.
Yep.
Marianne Kuroyagawa, at the scene of an unfolding
So this is the game's crossover with Michigan Report from Hell.
Despite the recent quarantine and health scares,
Oh my god!
inside this building. Now what's most surprising is the lack of response from authorities. So far we've seen no police, and we haven't heard from the government at all. Eyewitnesses
They are they have demands from every terrorist group in the world, but really they just want access to the vault in the basement. They're looking to cut the power. Yeah, speaking of police, and then they cut to an APC. That doesn't say a lot for...
This is legitimately a ripoff of Die Hard at this point.
It's a ripoff of everything.
John McClane, unavailable for comment.
Wait, who called for John McClown? So, Kuroh has hostages in the building, and instead of rescuing them, we're gonna kill these guys. And I am very ineffectively showing off the new moves that we unlocked. Oh, I've missed that sound. Well, I hear an enemy. Who could that possibly be? Oh, yep. So this is an enemy type that we've seen before, but I haven't really seen much of it. It's a sort of Wolverine-esque, at least with the Wolverine claws. They're a little tougher than your average grunt, but not by much. Mostly they can just block some of the basic attacks. So unless you either use the Stone Render sword or you like put them off balance with a barrage of attacks, because they also have the guard break. Also, I always get lost here, so just forgive me here. Oh, hey, look who it is.
Aww, El Gigante's back.
Yeah, this is specifically the second phase of El Gigante. He's level 4 now. He's back for revenge after humiliating him in the very first episode. The Pox Giant gets reused a couple of times here. Not so much in this episode, but in the rest of the game. Oh god, what's wrong with the camera?
I think it's just clowning around.
Yeah, it's just one of the many bells and whistles this game has to offer. Thankfully, we don't have to do a Toteme on the recycled Pox Giant. This particular mission really wants to make sure that you remember that you can use your long-distance Cyclone Shuriken. I'm sure there's no reason for that, which we'll be seeing later. Also, I kind of forgot how to wall run there. There's a cheap piece up here. Also, I think we may have murdered Snake.
Oh no.
Sorry, Snake.
We've at least crushed his spirit by crushing his boxes.
Well, it was his destiny to be in there. This level, for whatever reason, always confuses the hell out of me with its layout. I think because it's designed more like a ruined office building rather than a video game level. And we've got a new foe. Oh no.
Bugs!
No, I think they're bees. They also have a really weird kind of hitbox. Like they're not individual, but also they can teleport, I think. Like they're sort of jumping around there.
Yeah, that doesn't.
It's a very strangely programmed enemy. So there's the bee's nest over there, and these enemies will continually respawn until you destroy the nest. And the nest can only be destroyed with the flame shuriken. And not with the cyclone shuriken, you idiot. Why didn't I cut this out? This is only the highest quality. Also, I tried to destroy the nest, but it hit the bees instead.
Yeah, that is a rough hitbox.
Also, for some reason, when you destroy bees' nests in this game, it always gives you that extra cutscene. I have no idea why, but it does.
Wilson, I'm in.
And so is Kuroh. How does it look from out there?
I see hostages tied up and lying all over the place.
Be careful.
It just looks so ridiculous.
Hey, you finally made it. It's about time. Guess that explosion.
Well, you give shitty directions.
Doing, huh? Well, guess I shouldn't have gotten my hopes up. Besides, I prefer taking lives one at a time. Know what I mean?
No, not particularly. I prefer taking lives en masse in gigantic combat arenas while rock music plays in the background.
And that's fun! But where are my manners? Come on up. The party's just starting, and you're the guest of honor.
Speaking of manners, you really ought to clean up the mess you just made, young man.
Some old friends.
Oh, hey, speaking of plot threads that never go anywhere for the rest of the game.
Do you recognize our old team?
No, because these are just recycled enemy types.
Since our last sparring session.
So these armed carriers are they're supposed to be like, yeah, members of the old guide team, but this plot thread never comes up again after this fight.
They just drop it. They just don't do anything with it.
Yeah, like there's other stuff with Kuroh, but not the idea that he's taken. Actually, no, it does come up once later on in this level, but not with these particular enemies. Like the idea that they've taken normal enemies. Also, you can combine Ninja Vision with the charge attack, and it is awesome. Yeah, it does come up once later, but not with the normal enemy types. Only with one particular boss, shall we say. Also, I tried to use Ninja Vision again to, because remember, you deal more damage as well as taking it in Ninja Vision, and you can combine it with the Stone Render charge to absolutely obliterate enemies like that.
They pretty much just turn into a gold mist.
Yep. Oh hey, look, the charge attack on the lightning actually worked this time. Yeah, Ninja Vision is just as good as a crutch as it is an offensive and defensive tactic. The only problem, I think, is that it uses a little too much chi, at least on normal, to be effective for playing around with it. There is an easy difficulty, which you can only unlock by dying several times on normal.
Done it in half the time, but whatever.
What do you want?
So it's on the Devil May Cry 3 system.
Yeah.
Your blood boiling.
Not as much experimentation though. Like the framework for this game is still very much of the Ninja Gaiden mold as opposed to Devil May Cry.
Hear that? I'm going to ring it 9 more times. And when I'm done, I kill all the hostages. Sound fun?
Jeez, this really is a gong show.
8 more. Show me some hustle, big guy. Clock's ticking.
He really has gone full Jigsaw, hasn't he?
I think the worms are slowly eating his brain.
Oh, look, another set of offices that is almost identical to the offices we passed by earlier, which made me accidentally think that I backtracked. Also, great job. I tried to put out the fire with more fire. That was great thinking. So this is where the Shinobi Moji is, and I keep thinking that I can just extinguish the fire without dealing with the 2 box giants that are here.
Oh boy.
Yeah, even with the Cyclone Shuriken upgraded to maximum, it still takes a minimum of 2 Cyclone Shurikens to extinguish a flaming pox giant. That little bit of hit stun you keep seeing there, which I haven't really talked about until now, that's not anything related to offense. That's an indicator that your chi gauge has run out, along with a little bit of blurry vision.
I was wondering why that was happening.
Yeah, see, the chi gauge just ran out. It's actually intended as like a side effect of, or it's meant to be like a downside to using too much chi, that you can't see what's going on. They actually mention it in one of them, in one of the gameplay tips. I did mention that Chapter 6 is a lot better than 5, but it's a slow burn. But the parts that are great are some of the best in the game, and the camera work with the Twin Falcon, it's something with the combination of the Twin Falcon knives and the Pox Giant that the game's camera really doesn't like. So anyway, the Shinobi Moji is just sitting out in the open there. So we're gonna go grab it real quick.
At least they didn't hide it in an office or something.
Also, for some reason, this area had to load. Or at least enough to get a loading screen out of it.
Even though it's effectively the same offices.
No, we're outside now. I was trying to see if these are the same shielded enemies that we saw in some of the earlier shoot-'em-up levels, where you had to take them out with the grenade launcher. But now they're only vulnerable to the stone render, obviously.
Man, everybody made it.
So the Hornet's Nest is, sorry, Bee's Nest is over here. And I'm just trying to make sure that I don't get too much damage here. So, this is a one-off puzzle which never comes up again, and and probably because it's incredibly annoying, but they'd already made the set piece for it, and they decided to include it anyway. Also, I'm trying desperately to destroy these enemies. Those bees will not despawn, but they'll stay there. They just won't respawn once you've killed them, once the nest is destroyed.
So they can still be a huge annoyance in a fight.
I think they're more annoying because when they damage Ken, they cause flinching, and that I think is more the problem, because they can stagger your combo. So here's the puzzle I was talking about. Once I deal with these barrels over here. There are these helicopter blades, which are moving really fast. And you have
that
to...
doesn't seem safe at all.
That is definitely not safe. Japanese OSHA would have a field day. So we gotta use ninja vision to slow down time and run in between the blades. And I must have died at least 4 or 5 times trying to do that part. There's a good reason why they never use that puzzle again, because it's awful. Even the developers were aware of how much it sucked. But apparently not in...
It's clever, but it's ultimately awful.
Probably if the hitboxes of the blades were a little smaller. And that was that flying bird attack. Flying bird spin kick that I was showing off earlier. Oh look, another set of office buildings here. I couldn't resist. But apparently someone took offense. And I had to deal with him in an appreciative and respectful manner. For some reason, I thought there was still a collectible here. Oh wait, yeah, there was.
Health, please.
Well, there's another health piece. Some of these levels tend to blend together. So, they, thankfully you can also use lightning shuriken against these enemies. They stun the enemies. They don't take away their shields, but they do make it a little easier to get rid of the shields with the stone render. You still have to use the big weapon to get rid of the shields, but they at least get them out of the air for a bit.
Batter up.
I forget if I use the surf at all in this video, or if it's next one. But it's really fun to use, especially in one-on-one fights. And if I remember correctly, there's a costume in here, possibly a new emblem. We'll see. It's been a while since I recorded this one. Yep, the Oni emblem.
Oni.
That's another game I have, which I might LP someday. Oh, and here's a cheap piece. Oh dear, they kind of fused together there. Yes, that was very impressive, Ken. Your father would be proud. Yeah, unfortunately, the good parts of Chapter 6 are in the back half once we start getting to the boss fights. But the boss fights are absolutely worth it. I seem to remember this particular set piece was in... Was it Chapter 1 or 2? I think it was...
It was early on. It was probably late 1, early 2.
Yeah, I think it was in Chapter 1, because it had just introduced the Cyclone Shuriken. I have no idea why I did that. Anyway, so speaking of boss fights, the first boss fight of episode 1 of this episode is about to come up. if I actually start going the right way. And this is now officially where the chapter starts to get good. So have a listen to the music here once this boss fight starts. This seems like an incredibly tragic piece. It does not seem like music for a boss fight. So, anyway...
Well, that fly had plans, man. You're gonna kill him before he gets to go to college and raise a family.
And either that or he's a very possessive helicopter parent, because he apparently keeps his 200 kids with him at all times. And we're murdering all of them. See, look, there they are. So, the Myasia fly, I think that's how you pronounce it, is... it's a fairly interesting boss fight. It's large, but very fast. Essentially, you have to deal enough damage to it to the point where it starts to break apart. And then you use your chi powers to actually destroy the flies. And then that's really what deals most of the damage. All those little fire particle effects there are the various flies that have been destroyed.
I like that. It's a nice touch.
Also, it's electric.
Oh no, help him. He's caught in the bug zapper.
Yeah, he tends to like to do that particular close range electric attack if you stand close to him for too long. This game did take some precautions to make sure that you don't cheese the fights, but it apparently didn't factor in everything. They never was considered that a Japanese-American clown would come by and wreck shop.
They didn't figure the Myasia fly was going to laugh itself to death.
It's a very tragic laughter. He is a sad clown. Somehow I managed to dodge that. Anyway, I finally learned my lesson and kept my distance this time. But unfortunately I didn't time my ninja vision right and couldn't get a good shot on him, so I had to wait again. This boss is actually pretty fun to fight, even if it looks a little repetitive from an LP perspective. So there we go. Fly down.
Alright. I'll give him one thing. When he swats a fly, he swats a fly.
Well, I mean, he is part of the SWAT team. That's what he does. This is how you take care of a fly, right? By lassoing it. I love that face. Well, this is it.
That took too long. You're running out of time. The party's upstairs.
Well, we've got a party to go to. I guess we shouldn't keep him waiting.
To be continued.